Smile and Scars welcomes you back to another jaw-dropping story of action, courage, and lessons learned. Today, we bring you a story that will shock everyone. A racist cop slaps Steven Seagal, not knowing the consequences that will follow. The scene begins on a quiet city street. Steven Seagal, walking calmly, noticed a police officer aggressively approaching a bystander. Without warning, the officer directed his hostility towards Steven Seagal himself. The cop, brimming with arrogance, delivered a sharp slap across Steven's face. The crowd around gasped, and for a moment, the street fell silent. No one had expected the action star to be on the receiving end of such disrespect, and the tension in the air was palpable. The cop, mistaking Steven Seagal's calm demeanor for fear, laughed smugly, confident that he had humiliated a public figure. But Steven Seagal's eyes, calm yet piercing, told another story. The people in the crowd watched closely, sensing the energy shift. The infamous martial artist had been tested, and now the world was about to witness his response. As the cop continued to sneer, Steven Seagal moved closer, speaking in a low, controlled voice. He did not shout, he did not panic. He simply advanced, his presence alone commanding respect. The cop's grin faltered, his arrogance met with a silent warning. "You have no idea who you're messing with," Steven said, his tone steady, carrying authority that made the bystanders shiver with anticipation. The cop's hands twitched, unsure whether to escalate or retreat, but pride and ignorance often cloud judgment. He attempted to raise his hand again, a foolish second strike. That was the mistake that would change everything. With lightning speed, Steven Seagal intercepted the move. In a fluid motion, honed by decades of martial arts mastery, he applied a precise and controlled strike, disarming the cop and ensuring no permanent harm would come. The crowd gasped again, now not from fear, but from awe. Steven's technique was flawless, demonstrating both skill and restraint. The cop stumbled backward, realizing his arrogance had been completely misjudged. He had underestimated the man standing before him, a man who had trained his body and mind for situations exactly like this. Steven Seagal's calm eyes met the officer's, and with a single phrase, he communicated the lesson. Respect is never optional. "You learn respect before you learn arrogance," Steven said. His voice, carrying weight and authority, echoed across the street. The surrounding people nodded, some filming with their phones, capturing every moment of the incident. As the cop tried to regain his composure, a small voice in the crowd shouted out, "He's Steven Seagal." That revelation hit the officer like a wave. The man before him was not just a celebrity. He was a master martial artist, a legend in the world of combat. Fear replaced arrogance, and for the first time, the officer understood the gravity of his actions. The crowd began to cheer, not for confrontation, but for justice delivered with precision. Steven Seagal, known for his calm yet lethal efficiency, demonstrated restraint, ensuring the officer was left with a lesson and no lasting harm. It was the perfect balance of authority and discipline, showing why respect is earned, not assumed. Witnesses later recounted how Steven moved with such composure that even those closest to the confrontation felt a sense of awe. The officer, humiliated in front of the crowd, had no choice but to apologize, his confidence shattered by the immediate and undeniable mastery of Steven Seagal. But Steven Seagal's actions went beyond mere retribution. He made a statement about justice, discipline, and the importance of controlling one's ego. The story spread rapidly, not just as an account of physical skill, but as a lesson in humility and awareness. Those watching, whether in person or through the cameras capturing the moment, learned the power of restraint combined with unmatched ability. As news outlets began reporting the incident, the footage went viral. People shared it worldwide, analyzing every movement, every expression, and every word. Experts in martial arts praised Steven's precision, while psychologists commented on the way he maintained emotional control even under direct provocation. By the end of the day, the story had evolved into more than just a confrontation. It became a lesson in awareness, control, and the consequences of underestimating someone. The racist cop, once full of pride and ignorance, became a symbol of impulsive arrogance. In contrast, Steven Seagal emerged as a figure representing discipline, mastery, and the profound impact of calm authority. As the sun set over the city, witnesses continued to discuss the event. Many said they would never forget how quickly the situation escalated, and how quickly it was resolved by someone who had mastered both body and mind. Steven Seagal, always humble despite his legendary status, left the scene quietly, leaving behind a story that would be told for years to come. And this, friends, is only the beginning. Part 2 of this story will reveal the aftermath, the broader consequences, and the further lessons learned not just by the officer, but by everyone who witnessed this shocking and unforgettable event. Smile and Scars will bring you that continuation, where respect, humility, and action collide in a story unlike any other. As the dust settled on the street, the cop's shaken hands trembled slightly. The humiliation was immediate, and the crowd's cheers still echoed in his ears. He realized too late that his attempt to assert dominance had been an error of monumental proportion. He had not only misjudged Steven Seagal's skill, but underestimated the sheer authority a master martial artist could project without raising his voice. Steven Seagal's calm eyes scanned the crowd, not for applause, but for assurance that everyone was safe. The lesson had been delivered with precision and restraint, but there was more to come. The cop, his pride shattered, tried to gather his composure, mumbling an awkward apology, but the words sounded hollow against the weight of the actions he had just witnessed. The crowd began to disperse, some still murmuring in awe, others capturing every detail on their phones. News reporters arrived, asking questions, but Steven Seagal's response was simple and direct. "Respect is earned. Nothing else matters," he said, his voice steady, unwavering. It wasn't arrogance, it was authority. Those words hung in the air, echoing louder than any slap or strike could. Meanwhile, the officer attempted to contact his superior, desperate to justify his actions, but the video footage circulating across social media made any defense impossible. Experts analyzed the situation, noting that while the cop's aggression was reckless, Steven Seagal's response was a masterclass in controlled counteraction. Every move, every step, and every word was measured, ensuring the lesson was unforgettable but not lethal. As word spread, discussions began about the psychological impact of the incident. Martial arts enthusiasts noted how Steven Seagal's mastery was not just physical, it was mental. He read his opponent's intent, anticipated aggression, and neutralized the threat without escalating violence unnecessarily. It was a perfect demonstration of power, patience, and precision. The cop, now alone and visibly shaken, replayed the event in his mind. His arrogance had led to immediate regret. Each motion of Steven's controlled response reminded him of the mistake he had made. Fellow officers approached cautiously, aware that the story had become public and that any further misstep could magnify the humiliation. But the lesson wasn't just for the cop. The crowd, witnesses, and even strangers watching online learned the importance of restraint, respect, and awareness. Steven Seagal had turned an act of aggression into a public display of mastery and discipline. It was a powerful reminder that true strength doesn't need to shout or intimidate. It simply exists, undeniable and controlled. Within hours, the video had gone viral. Analysts on martial arts forums dissected every detail. Every step, every block, and every stance was examined. Some viewers focused on the fluidity of Steven's movements. Others discussed the psychological calm that allowed him to respond effectively. Yet all agreed, the incident was a textbook example of controlled retaliation. The cop, facing administrative review and social scrutiny, was forced to confront the consequences of his actions. Discussions within the police department centered around training, discipline, and the critical importance of assessing situations accurately. The lesson had extended beyond the street. It had become institutional. Steven Seagal, ever the master, left the scene quietly, He did not boast, nor did he seek recognition. His goal had been simple: to ensure respect was restored, and to demonstrate the importance of restraint under provocation. Yet his presence alone had sent ripples through the community, leaving a lasting impression on all who witnessed it. Days later, the officer attempted to reconcile with Steven Seagal, offering apologies and explanations. Steven listened, unwavering, and delivered a final piece of advice. "Strength is measured by your control, not by your arrogance. Never forget that," he said. It was a lesson wrapped in wisdom, one that the officer, and everyone who had witnessed the event, would carry forward. As social media continued to circulate footage and analysis, discussions began about the broader implications. Respect, humility, and awareness became central themes. Educators, martial artists, and psychologists all weighed in, highlighting how a single moment of arrogance could be met with a measured yet powerful response. Steven Seagal had transformed a street-level confrontation into a global lesson. The crowd members who had been present described the experience as surreal. Many admitted they had underestimated Steven Seagal, expecting perhaps an explosive reaction. Instead, they witnessed a calm, controlled, and highly effective display of authority. The incident became a talking point, not just for martial arts communities, but for anyone interested in human behavior under stress. The cop, reflecting on the event, realized the personal and professional ramifications. He had become a cautionary tale of impulsive arrogance and the consequences of underestimating someone's abilities. His colleagues discussed the incident frequently, using it as a teaching moment for new recruits. Steven Seagal's demonstration of controlled power and instant situational awareness became a case study in restraint, strategy, and mental discipline. Meanwhile, Steven Seagal continued his day-to-day life, unaffected by the viral attention. For him, the event was a reminder of the constant need for awareness and preparedness, regardless of status or fame. It underscored a simple truth: arrogance is often met with consequences, and mastery is expressed through control. By the end of the week, local news outlets revisited the story, interviewing witnesses and experts. Analysts praised Steven Seagal's skill and poise, while the officer's regret served as a reminder that impulsive actions have lasting repercussions. The incident became a lesson for the entire community, highlighting the value of respect and the dangers of underestimating anyone, especially someone of Steven Seagal's caliber. As time passed, the viral video remained a point of discussion online. Martial arts forums, psychology blogs, and even casual viewers dissected the encounter. The consensus was clear: Steven Seagal had turned a potentially dangerous encounter into a demonstration of skill, restraint, and authority. His response was precise, deliberate, and perfectly executed, a reminder that true power does not need to be loud or aggressive. It simply exists, undeniable and effective. The story, initially a shocking act of aggression, became an example of how one individual's mastery can educate an entire community. Steven Seagal's response ensured that the lesson was clear: respect is earned, arrogance has consequences, and control is the ultimate display of strength. By the time the dust settled, the event had left a permanent mark. The officer, the crowd, and the online audience all carried the lesson forward. Steven Seagal had turned a moment of potential chaos into a teaching opportunity, demonstrating that mastery is more than physical skill. It is the wisdom to act decisively and justly. And so, this story concludes not with chaos, but with clarity. A racist cop's attempt at humiliation ended with personal regret and a community-wide lesson, all thanks to the unwavering skill and calm authority of Steven Seagal. Respect had been restored, and the consequences of arrogance had been made clear for all to see. Smile and Scars reminds you that true strength lies in control, respect, and preparedness. One man's calm response taught an entire city, and millions online, a lesson that would never be forgotten.